What if one of the greatest civilizations in human history never truly disappeared, but simply changed its name? What if the country we call Iran today is actually the same land that once ruled half the known world under the name Persia? And what if the decision to change that name was not just a cultural shift, but a powerful political message sent to the entire world? Because behind that simple change lies a story filled with empires, invasions, religion, identity, and one of the most fascinating transformations in human history. To understand how Persia became Iran, we must go back thousands of years, long before modern borders existed, before Islam, before the Roman Empire reached its height, back to a vast and rugged land known as the Iranian Plateau. Imagine a region surrounded by massive mountain chains, scorching deserts, and ancient trade routes connecting Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. For thousands of years, this land has been a crossroads of civilizations, where armies marched, merchants traded, and ideas moved across continents. But the story begins not with an empire, but with migrating tribes. Around the second millennium before Christ, waves of nomadic peoples known as the Indo-Iranians began arriving in this region. They came from the great Eurasian steppes and brought with them languages belonging to the Indo-European languages family, the same linguistic roots that would eventually produce Greek, Latin, Germanic languages, and many of the languages spoken across Europe today. This is something that surprises many people. The ancient language of this land had nothing to do with Arabic. Words like madar for mother and pedar for father share echoes with linguistic relatives across thousands of miles. These were the foundations of an ancient and distinct cultural identity that would shape the region for millennia. Among the migrating groups who settled the plateau, two became especially influential: the Medes and the Persians. The Medes settled in the northwestern regions of the plateau and quickly built a powerful kingdom. Organized, militarily strong, and politically ambitious, they became the dominant force in the region for generations. But the Persians, however, settled farther south in a region known as Fars Province. At the time, they were not the most powerful group. In fact, they were initially overshadowed by the Medes. No one could have predicted that this relatively modest people would soon create one of the greatest empires the world had ever seen. That transformation began with the rise of a remarkable leader, Cyrus the Great. In the 6th century before Christ, Cyrus united the Persians and eventually overthrew the Median kingdom. But his ambition did not stop there. Instead of simply ruling a regional power, he envisioned something unprecedented, a vast empire made up of many peoples, cultures, and religions. Thus was born the Achaemenid Empire, the first truly multinational empire in world history. But what made Cyrus extraordinary was not only his military success, it was the way he governed. Many empires ruled through fear. Conquered peoples were enslaved, cities destroyed, cultures erased. Cyrus took a radically different approach. When he captured Babylon in 539 BC, he did not burn its temples or punish its people. Instead, he presented himself as a liberator. He restored religious sanctuaries and allowed displaced populations to return to their homelands. Among those who benefited from this policy were the Jewish exiles living in Babylon. Cyrus allowed them to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple, an act that earned him extraordinary respect in Jewish tradition. Rather than imposing a single Persian culture across the empire, Cyrus preserved local traditions. He understood that loyalty was stronger than fear. Under his leadership and that of his successors, particularly Darius I, the empire expanded at an astonishing pace. Within decades, Persian rule stretched from the Indus River in the east to the Aegean Sea in the west, from Egypt in the south to the vast regions of Central Asia in the north. It was the largest empire the world had ever seen up to that point. To manage such a vast territory, the Persians built remarkable administrative systems. They divided the empire into provinces called satrapies, each governed by regional officials who reported to the king. They also constructed one of the most impressive road systems of the ancient world, including the famous Royal Road of the Achaemenid Empire, which connected distant provinces and allowed messengers to travel thousands of miles with remarkable speed. Through organization, diplomacy, and cultural tolerance, Persia became what many historians describe as the world's first superpower. But even the most powerful empires can fall. In 334 BC, a young Macedonian king crossed the narrow strait known as the Hellespont with a relatively small but disciplined army. His name was Alexander the Great. Alexander's campaign against Persia began as revenge for earlier Persian invasions of Greece, but it quickly turned into something much larger, a quest to conquer the greatest empire on earth. Battle after battle followed. At the Battle of Glanicus, Persian forces were pushed back. At the Battle of Issus, Alexander defeated the army of the Persian king Darius III. Finally, in 331 BC, the decisive Battle of Gaugamela shattered Persian resistance. Within a few years, the once mighty Achaemenid Empire collapsed. But Alexander did something no one expected. Instead of destroying Persian culture, he embraced it. He adopted Persian royal clothing, married Persian nobles, and even incorporated Persian administrators into his government. Many of his own Greek soldiers were outraged. They had come to defeat Persia, not become part of it. Yet Alexander seemed to understand something deeper. Governing such a vast territory required cultural fusion, not destruction. He dreamed of creating a universal empire that blended Greek and Persian civilizations. But history had other plans. In 332 BC, Alexander died suddenly at the age of 32. Without a clear successor, his empire fractured among his generals in a series of conflicts known as the Wars of the Diadochi. The Persian heartland eventually came under the control of the Seleucid Empire, but Persian identity refused to disappear. Over time, new dynasties rose from within the region. The Parthian Empire challenged Greek influence and restored Iranian political power. Later, in the 3rd century AD, another dynasty emerged that would revive the ancient imperial legacy. These were the rulers of the Sasanian Empire. Claiming descent from the ancient Persian kings, the Sasanians rebuilt a powerful empire and restored Zoroastrianism as the state religion, devoted to the god Ahura Mazda. For centuries, the Sasanian Empire stood as one of the greatest powers of the ancient world, rivaling even the Roman Empire. But another transformation was coming, one that would reshape the entire region. In the 6th century, Arab armies inspired by the new religion of Islam surged out of the Arabian Peninsula. Within decades, they defeated the Sasanian Empire and brought Persia under Islamic rule. A new religious and cultural era began. Arabic became the language of administration and religion, while Islam gradually replaced the old Zoroastrian traditions. Yet something remarkable happened. Persian culture did not vanish. Instead, it adapted and flourished within the Islamic world. Persian scholars became leading figures in science, medicine, philosophy, mathematics, and literature. Even powerful conquerors, from Turkic dynasties to the Mongol armies of Genghis Khan, eventually absorbed elements of Persian culture. Centuries later, a new dynasty emerged that would permanently reshape the region's religious identity, the Safavid Empire. In the 15th century, the Safavid rulers made a dramatic decision. They declared Twelver Shi'ism the official religion of the state. This move distinguished their kingdom from the majority Sunni Muslim world and helped create a unique national identity. During this period, the ancient name Iran, meaning land of the Aryans, became widely used inside the country. Yet outside the region, the world continued to call the land Persia. For centuries, the two names existed side by side, Persia for foreigners, Iran for its own people. Then, in 1935, everything changed. The modernizing monarch, Reza Shah, founder of the Pahlavi dynasty, sent a formal request to governments around the world, asking them to refer to the country by its native name, Iran. It was a bold, symbolic move meant to project a new national identity, modern, independent, and rooted in ancient heritage. Yet the decision sparked controversy. Many intellectuals believed abandoning the name Persia meant losing a powerful connection to one of